In the summer of 1590, the English captain John White sailed back to the coast of what is now North Carolina after 3 years away. He was returning to a colony of 115 people, men, women, and children, that he had helped establish 3 years earlier and then been forced to leave to get supplies from England. He expected to find a settlement. He found nothing. No bodies. No graves. No sign of violence. No burned buildings. No belongings left behind. Just a single word, carved into a wooden post at the entrance to the fort, CROATOAN. And after 400 years, we still do not know with complete certainty what happened to those people. The Roanoke colony was England's first serious attempt to establish a permanent settlement in the Americas. The man behind it was Walter Raleigh, not yet knighted, still hungry, looking for the kind of grand gesture that would make his name. He had the charter from Queen Elizabeth I, the money from investors, and a theory that if England could plant a colony on the American coast, it could threaten Spanish shipping, access American resources, and outflank the most powerful empire in the world. The first expedition in 1585 was a military reconnaissance, soldiers, not settlers. They lasted less than a year before conflict with the local CROATOAN people and a shortage of supplies forced them to sail home with Francis Drake, who was passing through after raiding Spanish ports in the Caribbean. The second expedition in 1587 was meant to be different, a civilian colony, men and women and families, people who intended to stay. 117 people landed on Roanoke Island in July 1587. Within weeks, the situation was already difficult. The 1585 soldiers had made enemies of the local CROATOAN people. Food was short. The colonists pressured their governor, John White, to sail back to England for supplies. White did not want to go. His daughter, Eleanor Dare, had just given birth to the first English child born in the Americas, a girl named Virginia Dare. But he went. He left in late August 1587, planning to be back in a few months. He was not back in a few months. The Spanish Armada threatened England in 1588 and every available English ship was pressed into service. White spent 3 years trying to get back to Roanoke. By the time he finally managed to arrange passage, it was August 1590, 3 years after he had left. He arrived at the site of the settlement in the dark, called out to the colonists by name, and heard nothing back but his own voice in the trees. In the morning, White searched the site. The palisade fence around the settlement was still standing. The houses were gone, but not burned, not destroyed. Dismantled, carefully, as if they had been taken down on purpose. The heavy furniture and equipment the colonists had buried before he left, iron bars, cannonballs, equipment too heavy to carry quickly, had been dug up and removed. This was not a panic. It was a deliberate, organized departure. On one of the wooden posts of the palisade, someone had carved the letters CRO. On another post, higher up, carved more completely, CROATOAN. Before White had left in 1587, they had agreed on a signal. If the colonists had to move, they would carve the name of their destination. If they were in danger, they would add a cross. There was no cross. CROATOAN was the name of an island about 50 miles to the south, and also the name of the indigenous people who lived there. The CROATOAN had, unlike some of the other local groups, maintained friendly relations with the English colonists. White believed, was essentially certain, that the colonists had simply packed up and moved south to join the CROATOAN. He wanted to sail immediately to CROATOAN Island and look. A storm blew in. His ships were damaged. The captain insisted they had to return to England. White never got back. He spent the rest of his life trying and failing to organize another expedition. He died without knowing what had happened to his daughter and granddaughter. Here is what we know and here is what we do not know. We know the colonists left deliberately. We know they left a message that pointed to the CROATOAN people. We know the site showed no evidence of violence or disease. We know White never followed the clue. We know that for 400 years, nobody seriously investigated CROATOAN Island. We do not know if they got there. We do not know if they survived. We do not know if Virginia Dare, the first English-born American, grew to adulthood. There are 4 serious explanations. The first, and most likely based on the evidence, the colonists integrated with the CROATOAN people. Early 18th century reports from the region describe CROATOAN descendants who spoke English, had English surnames, and had gray eyes. Genetic studies of the Lumbee people of North Carolina, who have claimed CROATOAN descent, have found some evidence of European ancestry in the expected time frame, though the methodology has been disputed. The colonists may have simply become Native Americans, absorbed into a community that already knew them, and survived. The second explanation, they tried to move north toward the Chesapeake Bay, where Raleigh had intended the permanent colony to be, and were killed by the Powhatan Confederacy. John Smith, arriving in Virginia in 1607, reported that Chief Powhatan had boasted of killing a group of people living near Roanoke who had been with other tribes for some years. If true, this happened around 1607, 20 years after the colony disappeared, meaning the Roanoke colonists survived for 2 decades. The third explanation, they tried to sail back to England in a small pinnace they had left behind, and were lost at sea. This one has the least supporting evidence. 115 people on a small boat in the North Atlantic is not a survivable plan. The fourth, something we have not thought of, because 400 years later we are still piecing together what happened in a place where no English person went back to look, during years when nobody was keeping careful records, involving people who were deliberately trying to disappear from the official record. Here is the part that gets me. The Roanoke mystery is not really mysterious in the detective novel sense. The colonists left a message. The message pointed to a place. The place was never searched. 115 people dissolved not because they were taken by some force we cannot explain, but because the people responsible for them, the investors, the crown, the captain who turned his ships around, simply did not go back. The greatest unsolved mystery in American history may be unsolved not because the answer is hidden, but because nobody with the means to find it considered it worth the trouble. That is the story of the colony that simply vanished. If history that is stranger than any fiction is the reason you are still on YouTube, subscribe to Chamedia. New story every week.